people who trade that way. And I could trade that way if I needed to, but I don't really need to right now. So why would I do that? All right, so let's go on live here. And I think we got to put out the thing. Man, I'm so discombobulated right now. Cody, you're right, man. We move shit. This might be a bad idea. I keep like looking left to get my Google Meet, and then I'm like, wait, no, that's Neo. Wait, look right, no left. Wait, gotta look over here. What is going on?
Nick's a creature of habit.
Oh god, you don't even know how much that is absolutely accurate. Okay, let's move this. So we got the live session. Let me refresh Neo. Yep, we're all live.
Hello, I'm Neo.
Good.
Let's capture the move.
Let's capture the move. Alright, let's unmute him. We'll let him talk for a little bit. Okay. I think we're good. Got that screen up. Yeah. Like I said, the only thing I'm not doing let me see something, guys. Hold on. Because what I could do, because I know some people like to just watch it on my screen, and sometimes it's nice for me to reference it. It's crazy zoomed in for TikTok, but let me see if I can do it this way and how bad it would look.
Any thoughts of here, sorry, two mics. Any thoughts about changing your background? You know, I'm not a TikToker. I just joined trying to put hearts on your thing. But you know, my opinion is the screen that you have and you know the whole presentation, it just looks real infomercially.
Where do you mean? Sense. You talking about this behind me?
Yeah, well that's pretty cool. When you go to TikTok, it's got like two banners above and below you, and then a bunch of different stuff. So I don't know, you know, if you're playing around with it, you know, might see if that, you know, this picture kind of feels like, hey, I'm chilling with Nick, trading.
Yeah, all the crazy stuff up top. I didn't even put that on there, so I don't even know how to get that off there because I don't.
Yeah, you got like two banners going above and below you.
Not something I put on there. Huh. That's a TikTok thing. Let me.
I can take a picture and send it to you, but just, you know, throwing it out there.
Okay, so this looks like it added one banner automatically. Yeah, send me a picture. I'm just curious because again, guys, I can't see that kind of stuff. But I don't think it's mine. So just to show you mine, you know, this is all I get to see. Right? Is this. So I got the screen, got this screen, got me. All this other stuff is something that they added. So
yeah, I'll send you a picture. It just looks real infomercially. So if it's working, cool, but yeah, just somebody that's never been on there.
Yeah, it's not that it's working or not working. I just don't know what it looks like on that end, or how to even take it off. If I'm being honest, so. But I will, yeah, send me a picture when you can, because we're getting close to open, guys, and so we're going to do some TA here. And see where we can go. And then I'll play with that later, because I don't have time to really play with that for now. But what I'm trying to see, so I have it really stretched out on the other one for TikTok, and the problem is to see how there's no way to zoom one and not the other, unless I log into a whole different account, which I'm not going to do right now. So... for those that want to see Neo, I'm going to have him on my screen on the left, so that way I'm not actually going to be sharing that one from the Google Meet. So my suggestion would be, you're going to be able to hear him, would be to open our website.
Currently retesting the 5-minute.
I'll mute him for now. Would be to open the website, right, and then just watch it on your side of things, right, and then I'll just let the audio play, right, when it does it. So yeah, I'm kind of playing with some things and changing a few things on some layouts and such, guys. So which is not my favorite thing to do because I'm not a big creature of fun and change. But welcome, guys, for those that are coming in here. I think I'm all good. Yeah, if I leave it like that, I'm cool with that. Okay. I like this anyways because I've always loved my screen being all my trading view, right? Gonna be a little weird because I'm not used to looking to the right to see things. So if anybody has any comment or something, I'll be looking at that. But let's take a look at the market, guys, because we only got 9 minutes now. So welcome. Couple quick summarized thoughts, right? So nothing really changes from a macro side of it. We're still kind of uptrending. You can see we're getting a little bit of weakness, between the oscillations, right? Which is not surprising because we're freaking high in the range, right? I'm not going to really adjust anything in this. When you come up onto this kind of color line up here, it's just kind of like our first kind of possible resistance, right? Where we might come up and smack that and then pull. If by chance the market opens and we do push heavily north, right, which is a possibility, somewhere around that, area, if we do get that rejection and pull, that breakdown back below 28K is going to be really, really big, right? And so just kind of keep that in mind, guys. I have been preaching this for a while, that when I first had called the blow off top that we were having here, right, back like here, my target was pretty much 28K originally, and it was kind of just a quick, like the blow off top, all this, when we break that, we should go pretty close to directly to 28K, right? And so we've hit that. We just literally just hit 28K. I thought we might hit it yesterday, but we didn't. And so now it's tricky because I will tell y'all, the market does not like deeply rounded numbers, right? And you can see when we come back, here, as we got up to 26.9, right, we got floored. And then you can see we came up, we hit 27, but then when we lost 27, we kind of floored, same thing, right? We broke 27, lost 27, and just absolutely tanked. And so it's similar thoughts when it gets to something like 28, right? And the higher we go, the more impactful that is going to be. And so, now that we just hit that 28, on that, it just, if we stay below 28 on our open and our sweep, I would expect a pretty good pull, right? My bias for me, guys, because mostly as many know, I'm more top and bottom when I trade. I like to look for pullbacks before I take entries. I'm not a huge fan of just straight continuation or momentum like that. I will call that out, right? And if you are, you can take those, right? But I prefer pullbacks. So I want to play the pullback of the trend that I'm playing. So even if I wanted to take a long, something like this, I would want to pull back, right? Somewhere halfway here, somewhere here, and then I would be totally content with taking that long. I am not really content in taking a long here because I know we have broken certain things that should absolutely propel us more north. It just should. But to me, it's a little risky because there's nothing up here, guys. Literally, what you see here is the only TA that I find or see as potentially relevant, right? And so I'm going to extend this one just a little. It's more like that. And so anybody who claims they know how high we're going specifically is full of it, because there's just no way to know, right? There's some math you can do, projected moves, things like that, but nobody knows, man. Everything up here is just going to be speculation and hype, right? I can sit here and hype you all day. Like, oh, I got this and that and higher low and we're pushing and the hammers and the close. Like, we're going to the moon, 28.5, 28.7. Nobody really knows when it gets this high, right? Because we are so ridiculously out of proportion, right? Think about it from a lower time frame. If I were to tell you that this was a 1 minute or 15-second, what would you be looking? You'd be looking more short, right? The difference is that it's a high time frame, right? And it's the way that we're breaking out, everything lining up, the structure. And so we don't really know how high that can continue, because you could argue that, you'd be looking short here and here and here, right? And a lot of people were. And that's why in this community, I've been telling people, like, we're not done. Like, we're going to 28 most likely. And so, but now we're there, right? And so, similar to when you trade a low time frame, if I call out a target for because of whatever reason, and then I hit that target, I gotta kind of like wait, right, and see what is my next move, what's my next target, right, if you will. And that's kind of how I feel today, right? Because we just hit what my call or my target was, months ago, right, back in like February, and maybe even sooner. And so, I don't know. I'm not really thrilled about doing any kind of longs up here. That's just me. When things don't line up in my favor, I'm very patient. You guys that were here kind of seen that Friday, right? We watched that thing go up like 200 points. And I didn't take none of that. And I just waited for the top. And I'm like, okay, finally, the thing looks like it's, topping out. I'm going to take some shorts, right? And then I made a good amount of money that day. I think I made like, 3,000 or 4,000 that day. And I didn't take anything long. And so I'm patient for the market to do what I want it to do, or to be lining up for my bias. Again, I still feel like we could, the odds of us getting up here are pretty high. The odds of us getting up into here are pretty high, right? But I also feel like as we're kind of expanding here, right, there's some pullbacks that they gotta happen, guys. And even if you were to kind of look at it this way, I guess, right? So on the way up, when we got to the area that we were really watching, which was like that 26.4, that break, since then we're really not bad on equity clears, because if you mark it from there, right, we have a push, halfway pullback, right, still that halfway pullback, then we pushed again, cleared that one, pushed again, we cleared that one, right, then we pushed again, didn't quite clear that one, close, but needed a little bit more of a pull, right, but pretty close. But so from where we actually were planning the blow off top, we're kind of doing okay, clearing that equity, right? So it doesn't really have to come back quite yet, until we break certain things, like, this simple 4-hour trend line, until something like this breaks, we're still uptrend, guys. And so we're not going to be any kind of full style crash, right? And so, but what intrigues me is that we're getting a lot of big pushes up, but we're also getting a lot of big ass sweeps down, right? And so for me, I was talking about this with the mentor group. I'm always a big fan of you should trade your bias against what are you the most fearful of, right? Are you the most fearful that we're going to just go to the moon, or the drop, right? And when I start to look at this and I see these deep sweeps, these just fast sweeps, and we saw it yesterday just out of nowhere, right? $100 candle, right, south. It adds a little more fear of how low we're going to go, right, versus how high. And so this whole way, guys, literally from, and my mentor group can keep me honest with this, damn near from all the way to the bottom here up, I mean, shoot, even kind of here, I've been long. Even in these drops, right? I didn't care. I just waited for pullbacks and played long. And now that I'm up here and I've hit the target that I wanted, I'm kind of more short. I'm looking more short. It doesn't mean I'm always in a short and taking every short, but I'm more short, right? I will take a long, but only if I have a relevant pullback, right? Let's let open settle here for a second, guys. This doji to me is huge because we got to close above that. So any kind of push here that happens in open should happen from a candle logic, right? We teach it all the same, right? Whether you're 1 minute, 15 second or hour. If we breach, right, out of this peak, kind of this area here, kind of that 47 to 65, it should give a good expansion, right, before it pulls, right? But if we come back down and we breach that top or this top, right, that pull's going to be pretty nasty. So you got to be really careful, guys, chasing longs. Again, now let's couple that with all the indicator logic. So when you think about it from an indicator logic, we'll go to the 1 minute. Let me stretch it out. So if you go to the 1 minute, right, you can see anything above a prior day high, I'm not too eager to short, right? Because the odds of us hitting that and just going parabolic in a bounce is pretty high probability, right? Now, notice here, what this is doing is critical for me because as we pushed, see how quickly we lost that high that I was talking about? So it came back down, but now where this landed here is also critical because it landed on an equal low. It didn't sweep the low, right? And so that's important to me. Now, what I'm really wanting to do is I would prefer, before I took any shorts, that this thing came through here and I was able to breach back into, at least 966, preferably 947. Because anything that breaches that, right, is going to put me back into my my doji, right, which is these white lines that I marked on the high time frame. It's going to put me back internal. Anything that stays above 9047, even if it pulls back, it's just a healthy pullback, right? Could be. And it could jump again. Now, I'm curious to see where this plays out because we have a pretty deep sweep wick up, pretty deep sweep wick down, and we're kind of middle, right? The buyers aren't gone, the sellers aren't gone. I see this as a few things, guys, and what this is doing right now is huge because when I look at this doesn't matter to me a lot. It kind of does, but not really. I want to see what it's doing now because can we reclaim these highs, the 2806, right? If we can push that, keep a higher low or equal low, and then push above that there, right? Now we're swing high, swing low, but it's kind of showing its hand early on what it wants to do, right? As far as the bias. So, I kind of warned the mentor group, and I figure I'll do it with you guys too. But just I caution you guys on entering too high volume today or taking too many risks on accounts you're not willing to risk because I think we have just as much risk, of going all the way up into these ranges as we do, collapsing and just absolutely flooring, and so candle progression wise, we're still very, very bullish, right? And you see that push, but at some point, right, we're going to hit some deep areas that are going to give some really solid resistance, right? And so we just don't know where that's going to be until we see some kind of projection. So I gotta ask Alex. So guys, those watching Neo, we did an awesome update yesterday where he can actually interpret news. Notice how he's saying, based on the JOLTS data, it's pretty cool. It's a sick update, but I'm curious how he has it being passed through because it mentioned that we had JOLTS data at 7 a.m., which we didn't. And so we got to be really careful on that. I got to ask him where he pulled, like how he's interpreting that into Neo. I didn't know he pushed that. I thought he was pushing it this morning. So just disregard the news concerns as of now. We do have 9:45 though. We do have PMI. So that is going to be a thing. So let me look at something here. Yeah, so we're still getting some good pressure, guys. Let's see if it wants to exhaust it all. So still pushing. Just kind of watching the DOM. See if we get any kind of pull here. Guys, give me 1 second. I gotta look at something. Let's let this settle for a second anyways. Okay, man. So yeah, see, we're going to the moon apparently. So I'm just looking again, just like we did the other day, right? Do we want to see, do we have any signs of weakness? Right, we just want to see if there's any signs of weakness here. So I have a top potentially around 78, but yeah, this thing is just pushing, guys. A little weakness in the 15-second. So we got our first red candle. Let's see if that pulls us down to test the top. Or if it wants to just keep going. So candle logic, you know, showing that we were going to push is playing out. But again, guys, we're up in the middle of nowhere here. So I want to see if it's going to be like that other day where this thing just goes forever. Or do we get some kind of sweep, right? We're starting to get a little pressure south. I'm gonna leave Neo muted until about 8 or 9:45, and then we'll let him talk on those. But I kind of want to watch the DOM here. So we're getting a pretty good pull. See the weakness finally we're seeing in the 15-second. That's an expected pull back to the 21, right? Maybe as low as here. So we got our push. Isn't it interesting? I'm really curious to see how this plays out, because those in the mentor group we've been studying, we usually go about 50, like $40 to $60 above like that 28, right? And then from there, if it can hold, right, we keep going. But if it comes back and breaks back below the 28 from there, then it ends up being a longer term stop out or stop play, right? So I'm curious to see how hard this sweeps. Now this tells us everything, right? Because this is our high, this is our push. We did break down. This breakdown should create lower highs to pull back to retest that top. Anything that's like way above that, that creates another high, man, we are just strong today. And who knows where this thing can go from there. So this is a very important push right here, because if this push fails, right, and pulls back down, then we're going to try to sweep that low again. So we are creating a doji on the 1. Let's look at our traps and see if we see anything. Still got some pretty good strength in it though. See the push? This push here matters because if we sweep low again without a higher high, then that's going to pull it to there. Right, and so I'm trying to see where this closes here. Still getting some decent DOM jumps. I don't know if you guys noticed that. I want to see some DOM drops, preferably. See that jump? Well, we got a little absorption there. Did you guys see that? We kind of jumped and then we just kind of absorbed it back. So far we're low or high, so let's see if we get that close in the 15-second. Now, as the structure forms, right, it should signal a potential pullback, but we want to watch the DOM, because if we should signal a potential pullback, but we're still jumping, right, on price, it's not quite ready to pull back, right? And see how we're still pushing. So this is going to be critical, right? Does it explode through the high, or do we get that that deeper pull potential? So see how it's retesting that high. So watch the DOM and see how the order flow comes in. Just want to see if we got weakness at all, right? So we're still getting good, pretty decent DOM jumps. See that push? We're still pushing. So we're about to hit this trend line target, guys, so be careful. That's going to be a big one for me because that's the only thing I really see up top, right? Almost a perfect rejection off it so far. Let's keep watching the DOM, guys. So that 2880 is what I have. If we blow through that, guys, highly recommend kind of just sitting out for a minute. We're still getting a few hammers. Let's see. Again, I think that trend line is going to be pretty staunch, so I would not be surprised if that doesn't pull us back a little. Still getting a lot of hammers up there. See how we're getting all these little hammers here? Neo's saying none, right? He don't like anything right up here. He's like, nah, I'm good. What a explosive play. Look at that. Guys, that's crazy. Pretty crazy, guys. Pretty crazy. So let's look and see. I feel like I'm getting that sense of the other day, right, where we got that really big push, and then we kind of hit our top, and then it just absolutely floored. So that's kind of what I'm watching here. If you're looking for shorts, right, either, you know, if you're laddering, fine. If not, you just want to be patient for your thing there. I have a few that I'm kind of doing some variations of laddering, but once, you know, we get any kind of weakness through here, right, we'll get that pull. But we have that, basically the break of the 28 and that big jump there. So, but we got some massive gap fills down here, guys. So let's see. So much strength in this thing, man. See, we're starting to get those little pulls though, guys. So keep watching those prior highs, prior lows. Those are going to be critical for this. See the DOM drops we're getting now? So we might be getting into the pullback here. So this prior high right here, guys, 78 is going to be really big. I'm heavily watching the DOM because I want to see if we start to get DOM drops, right, and we get to close below there, it should breach that high pretty well. Yeah, see the strength in that, guys? So this is big right here, right? Because we're testing the high. Got a little bit of a minute double top. You guys see that? So I'll tell you right now, guys, if this breaks back below 28, it's going to be just nasty. I would not be surprised. See, we're breaking that prior high. From a 1 minute standpoint, guys, you know, we have that. We want the close below there, somewhere down here, right? And then we're also trending still green. So preferably, you know, you want to get below that from the indicator standpoint. And so we do have a little bit of a minute trend line. It looks like it's respecting, right? And so we kind of want to watch that as well. So we have the breach wick. We want to see, is it going to, you know, now that we have the breach wick, right, are we going to come back down, right? Or are we going to just have enough strength to just continue to push? That's the biggest question of the day right now, guys. See how we're getting the rear back? Looks to me like it wants to get ready to pull back, but I'm just kind of watching that DOM. We're still getting pretty good pulls within. See the breakdown? So this one right here, if we get a close on the micro below there, guys, it's going to sweep pretty hard. Because then that would validate our hammer close below, right? So we need to see that from the 1 minute preferably, right? Ooh, man, look at that. Out of nowhere. Holy moly. We need to see if this gets absorbed, though. What a volume play, though. Holy cow. Let's see if we sweep now, right? Stop hunt. So where this candle lands is going to be really critical, because as we have that stop play, right, anything that closes below that now is going to for sure pull hard. But that was some nasty volume out of nowhere. They may not be done, guys. What a push. So if you're waiting or if you're laddering anything, right, I'm trying to see. I'd prefer to see what I'm kind of seeing now, right? It's hard because we're getting like these crazy bursts, but notice from here to here we have a pretty good high. From here to here we have a pretty good high, right? So it's got strength. Even the low has got good separation. This high is weaker. So if this loses this, right, it's likely going to come for a lower low if we lose this high with any kind of strength. And so I'm going to extend this out just to kind of pull it there. We
Those
also
look like rigid moves.
Yeah. So it looks like it's sort of showing signs of possible weakness, but we want to see not only it lose the high, but for this to come breach wick and close and lose that low, right? Which would be a test to Lisma.
I know you're not listening, but Neo in his last guidance used the term maximum danger.
I just seen that. Oh, I forgot. Let me turn him on because I do want to learn or hear what he's saying about this up in the all-time high. But that's funny. I did not see that, so that's actually pretty funny. Yeah, let's look and see. We're starting to see a little weakness now, guys. We just blew through 28 like it was nothing, and we hit the 100. We swept that. If we lose this 100 and we stay below that 100, right, then we're gonna get that deep pull. Because that would be another round number, right, that it is deciding that it does not like. So that's kind of mostly what I'm watching.
There's more news in 6 minutes, 5 minutes, right?
Oh, yeah, we had the PMI. Yeah, PMI.
Yeah.
I think PMI is what might have done that.
Yep.
I forgot about, yeah, the PMI was coming out. So see how we're starting to get a little weakness, guys, the breakdown? That's what I was talking about. Just want to see if it holds. It should, based on just the way that this lost that lower high, like I was telling you, that's a pretty decent sign of weakness, and we usually get pretty good pulls from that.
The market is witnessing a sharp volatility spike as it approaches the 7 to 0 a.m. EST data releases, with price currently fluctuating around the 28,070.25 level after failing to
I
sustain the
hate
push
how
toward 28,111.50 highs.
I gotta tell
Sentiment,
Alex that.
bullish pressure. Confidence, 1 out of 10. Reason, despite the recent pullback, the price remains well above the 1-minute Lisma of 28,047.57 and the 5 minutes Lisma of 28,006.31, which continues to anchor the broader bullish trend. Concerns. We are now in the immediate countdown to the ISM and JOLTS data, which will likely produce violent, non-directional liquidity sweeps that make technical participation impossible.
I'm gonna mute him, guys, and we'll just keep guiding from there. I need to watch and see. Be careful taking the guidance, because for those that are joining or new, Alex is we figured out a way to add news into his TA, and that's awesome, right? Because now we can see when news things come through and all that. He messaged last night that he had it going, right, and it was working, and I was excited, so I'm like, yeah, it sounds great, like, push it, let's roll. And he ended up pushing it, but I didn't verify it. And so he's pulling data from somewhere, and he's assuming we have jolts, which I don't think we had jolts today. So I don't know if he's got the news dates on it off, but
We did. We had it.
we had PMI.
Well, no, early 7:45 or 9:45 your time. I thought we had jolts then.
Might have. Let me look and see. Maybe he did. Hold on. We were talking about a lot of things in the mentor group, but I didn't see.
Yeah, jolts at 10 a.m.
Maybe he did.
Jolts is the one coming up.
Oh, that's what he did. Okay, and he does this sometimes. Okay, we have jolts coming at 10, but he has it at 7 because he's West Coast. So I bet you he put it on his West Coast time. Is what he did. Okay, that helps out a lot, because I was so confused on that. I'm like, I know we didn't have it at 7 a.m. And so, yeah, so we do have the jolts coming up here in 3 minutes. And so that's what it is. So that's easier. Let him know.
Yeah, jolts and PMI coming at 10 o'clock.
All right, I'll just let him know that he has it at PST is, I think, the issue. Okay, well, yeah, because if you see, he mentions we're now in an immediate countdown for the jolts data, which is likely going to cause violent directional sweeps, all that, right? So that's correct. It looks like he's referencing it correctly. He's just probably has the time frame, PST, right? And so, yeah, 7 a.m. your time, Paul. And so we gotta. So it sounds like he's referencing it correctly, because he's identifying that it's in a countdown to it, right? That we're coming into it, which is perfect. But this is what was throwing me off, because he kept throwing 7 a.m. out there, and I'm like, yeah. So I put a little thing in the text chat, but if you see him before I do, just remind him. Yeah, we'll just blame Paul too. Paul's the new breaker of things. He breaks all the stuff instead of me. We're forming a little bit of a head and shoulders here, guys. So if we do get any kind of breakdown here with the breach wick of Lisma into a pull, it's going to be a really good trade. So those looking for that short setup, a little safer. Anything that kind of breaks into here with the close below is likely going to have enough steam to pull it to there. So seems to me that we're definitely slowing down. Whether it stays that way, we'll see. Because last time we were slowing down out of nowhere, we had like a $50 candle. So here's our head and shoulder play I was talking about. Ooh, crazy movement. You guys see the Dom? Going bananas the drop. Look at this. News is coming in, but it's crazy because the Bears are winning. I don't know what the news was, but it's a big old battle. But the Bulls are still pushing hard, though, even considering the Bears are winning. The Dom fight, in my opinion. But see, the Bulls still are not gone, even though the Bears are, in my opinion, again winning. Insane. So let's see if we get this head and shoulder play. This was the play I was talking about anyways. But see, oh man, we just still keep getting these little dumb pushes. So this is a Lisma breach wick rear back, so the push doesn't surprise me because that's what Lisma does, right? That's what it's supposed to do. Now how deep it goes may surprise me, but let's see. Okay. Definitely a bit of a fight. See, it's weird. Like I was saying, like the Bears were winning that fight, but the Bulls just weren't gone. Crazy. So let's see where this lands, right? Again, you know, we had this head and shoulder with a decent breach wick that should have played us down. And we're bouncing pretty heavy off of it, but we want to watch this high because as long as we reject anywhere in here with another red candle close, then that's going to be our move, right? But if we end up getting a close above these wicks here, we ain't done, guys. We're going for expansion. So let's see. But I love that Neo said none, because, guys, remember, the whole plan... Oh, okay, I see what you're saying, Paul. That makes sense. Now Alex is looking at like, okay. He was probably tripping out like, what? That makes sense. Okay. But I love that it's working, guys, because, again, the end game, you know, he's learning, he's evolving. We continue to improve him, and we're going to continue to do so. But keep in mind, he's his end game goal, guys, is we want him to trade real money eventually someday, right? For us or anybody that wants to do it. And so when you're trading that kind of stuff, right, you always want to make sure that he's aware of news, right? It's going to be a big deal. And so the fact that we're able to inject that, and he was able to say, hey, we're approaching some news. I don't see any long opportunities. That's a good thing, right? And so you can see he actually said, I'm strictly avoiding all market participation to protect capital against the inevitable news-driven price action. Love that he said that, guys. I'll wait for the markets to finalize its initial reaction and demonstrate a clear post-news trend. One sec. Alex is up and working on it too, so I was just responding to him. But yeah, so it's exciting, guys, on that, because now we actually have, think about it, you know, if you can have a bot or automation at some point, right, that can identify and interpret news is huge, right? And so I love that he did that. So I want to see I want to see how we respect, this kind of 28.1 area. So you guys know I was taking a swing at this trend line here. All the stuff up here is going to be subjective, right? And so we're not really respecting it, so I'm going to take it off. Up here is really the next like high that I have, right? And again, everything up here is who knows, right? And so the best way to trade this type of stuff is to identify highs, lows, micro, macro, see what it's doing, right? You can only really look at the candle logic and go with that, right? And so as we pulled down here, you guys can see we had a pretty clean head and shoulders. It's trying to invalidate, right? It's which is crazy because the bears were so strong in that news push, and then the bulls just came in and were like, nope. We got a pretty good bounce off Lisma, but any kind of failure to create a high there, now that we have hammers here, inverted hammers, any close below theirs is going to likely sweep it, right? So we got to wait and see how we project through this. We are getting a trap call, but it has a low of like 58, right? And so anything in that box could play. So yeah, let me let's see what kind of breakdown we get here, guys. Gosh, man, the pressure is just still so crazy strong. This is important to me, guys, because remember what we talked about before? When we break a round number and then we lose it and then it stalls at it, which we've done now for like 6 minutes, when we close out of that compression southern, it's a pretty big drop, right? But if we close out of it northern, then it's likely going to push pretty hard. So where this closes is very big.
Is that B trap for bears, or is that just a grading level?
So when you see the trap like this, anytime it's underneath, it's expecting a possible pull trap into a bigger push, right? Is what it's expecting. This trap indicator is really solid, but again, just some of my rules of things is I'm not a huge fan of taking longs on areas that have a long way down with no TA above to know how high we can go, right? It's kind of like just shooting in the dark, right? Because you could take a long because everything looks very bullish still. We're even invalidating bearish things, but there's just nowhere to know technical wise how high that's going to go, right? Like when we normally trade, we're looking at things like, okay, if I bounce here, right, I'm expected to go back to that liquidity. If I break this and reject here, I'm expected to go back to that liquidity, right? Because we have prior historical data of liquidity to see. I have no liquidity up here to see, right? Like as far as that, and there's you got the orders that people are placing through like Bookmap, things like that, looking at real-time data, but as far as from a technical standpoint, there just isn't anything, right? And so I don't really like chasing those. I would rather wait. Either I'm going to wait for a full breakdown, right, to show some weakness, or I'm going to begin laddering short, which is what I've done on some accounts, right, where I'm just kind of scalping defensive entries south, right, and as it jumps again, then I just throw some more defensive entries, right? So but there's just it's funny. Remember in the pre-market guys, I was in the mentor group, I was talking about that, where I'm like, something about today just feels like we're about to go, right? Like we're about to jump and we could fall, but I just had some kind of like feeling that we were going to jump again. And so it's cool to see that play out, right? But I don't, for my style of trading, the way I trade and scalp, and these long-term, long-range continuations are not my favorite way to do it, right? Like I want to see some data. Like give me a push with a halfway pull, retest these highs, then go back up, retest some lows, then go back down. Like give me some internal candle logic that I can follow. When we just explode, it's There's just no way to know, right? And so it's a funny thing about trading, right? Because we could have this thing just end here in the next hour or two, and you could sit back and go, man, Nick, like we were really bullish, this thing's going crazy, like why didn't we just take longs all the way to there, right? You don't know that that's going to happen. Right? We don't know that. We don't have any data or TA to suggest that, right? Of where that ceiling can be. You know, that same argument or logic could be, you know, me taking that long after this, you know, full open expansion, and then you get caught in a deep retracement, right? And a lot of times I've seen these kind of plays or structures happen. Heck, we've seen them live together. When once it finds its top and it begins to break down, it's almost inevitable to come down and create that lower low, right? Back into here. And so for me, I fear the drop right now far more than I fear the push. Like far more. So this is the great thing about trading, and you all that are on your journey, right? Is you have to be able to let FOMO go, right? You know, if you look at this to go, dang, you know, I mean, candle logic was there, right? We had the absorption north, absorption south. We closed above it. We retested above it, right? All the things that we would follow from a candle logic perspective, right? Lined up, right? So you would think, well, why didn't I take that long? But if it doesn't line up with your bias or your, you know, one of the bigger things I always preach is, you know, you have to trade, you know, I like to use my bias into the directional side that I'm mostly fearful of, right? Am I fearful of the crazy push or how deep that sweep could come once we do break down, right? And that tends to choose my bias. I don't typically trade long, short, long, short, long, short like that anymore. I used to do that, and I can do that. I've had some pretty big accounts that I've created from doing that, but it's just very dangerous in this day of age of trading because, you know, the market is just so sporadic right now. But like I was talking about in the pre-market, I fear, you know, the $80 drops out of nowhere more than, you know, these kind of like climbs like this, right? That's just me. I'm not opposed to going long up here in an area of things, but if I'm going to go long, I would heavily prefer that you know, it pulls down into this range, right? Give me a pull, a retest of the 28 with some kind of bounce, you know, doji close above, then I'll consider that, right? But chasing, if you're chasing something like this, northern, you're playing with fire, right? Because, yeah, I mean, we could keep going for days. We did that, remember I think it was last Friday. We just kept going and going and going and going, and we hit finally something like that, and then we started taking shorts, and then we made just as much money on the way down, right? But I like to take trades that have clear liquidity it's going to go for, right? Preferably. So there's really not a lot to gauge up there, but I know that there's going to be some liquidity down here because that is a 28K. See those sweep? See what I'm saying? You see why I'm more fearful of that? Crazy. I love when I can share something and then it happens right in front of us. So how this absorbs to me is huge, guys. Absolutely critical. Because see the pull, we're finally getting that. That pull should come back all the way to 28, right? We should be able to pull all the way back to 28. But I want to see how aggressively it absorbs that. Doesn't seem like it's going to. See the bears kicking in, guys? Look at this. Full collapse. See, I'm capitalizing heavily on this pull because of the way that I was doing my defensive setup strategy. These deep pulls are very, very good for me. Very, very good. So depending where this goes, I don't think we're done yet, guys. So do not chase the bottom, because we got a pretty much clear path to come down to retest those highs at 05. Now we could bounce somewhere on the 5-minute Lisma. So if you're trailing, right, just kind of keep that trail going. Anybody catching this short? We'll talk about it in a second.
No, I was multitasking and I missed it. No, I don't want to get in.
Yeah, it's scary now because we're coming into a level that could bounce. But like I said, guys, usually when you break something like a 100 and this begins to collapse, a lot of times that comes down pretty deep, right? Because they're going to trap all these people, and then it comes all the way down for a pretty deep lower low, right? But your thoughts are correct as far as just be careful chasing, right? Because we definitely have been very bullish, and if you think about it, we're a push, we just are halfway liquidity, right? This blue line is where we're bouncing now, which does make sense because it's, you know, one of the VWAP calculations we use. And so it's not abnormal for it to bounce. Now what would be abnormal is for us to breach these lows, right? Because how this structure is, where it failed, it should be more bearish, right? We should come for the lower low, but it should not be able to reclaim like things like 070, 064 with ease, right? If it does, right, then it's a pretty good bear fake, and man, we just going up again. But I would be surprised if it does that, but it's definitely possible. But let's see. Let's just watch. So it's testing that low right now. See the lows it's testing? This is big, guys, because if we just burst through this, we ain't done. Now, it's not way out of ordinary possibility, right? Because we do have Lisma up here, right? So for it to come back up and want to check in with that is normal, but it would show a lot of cards for me, because if this is fully going to be a deep breakdown, we shouldn't have enough strength to just obliterate these lows without any kind of absorption back, right? And so let's just watch. Now it is a pretty decent bounce right off of our VWAP, right, near the 5-minute and the 1-hour Lisma. So the bounce itself doesn't surprise me, but how strong this bounce is what will tell me how surprised that I am. So we're coming into another low. See this one right here? So let's see if that's enough to sweep us back. Man, y'all see why I fear these drops? Look at this shit. Oh man, like clockwork. This is great. For those that are in the mentor program and development program that I've taught how to ladder or do this ladder short, this is the stuff that is just money, because when you're building up the rungs and then you get those sweep drops, all you see is just take profit, take profit, take profit. It just smacks all the rungs. Oh, guys, that's huge, because see how we failed here? We lost that. This should have had enough to breach wick this if it's going to be bearish, right? Not quite done yet, but you guys see what I mean though on that? Like all these pushes and stuff, like, man, these just random ass drops to me are more fearful than the push that it's trying to do. For sure. So I'm just trying to see, are we getting full breakdown or not? Now, if you think about this from a 1 minute, right, we have our double top formed, came down, here's our neckline. We did get a breach back into the neckline, but it did a sweep absorption to the south. That's a normal characteristic for it still to be in play, right, which seems it would be more downside. I'm expecting a downside pull at least to these prior tops is what I've been kind of expecting from that failure of the 100. So, but now I'm just kind of trying to see how much strength do the bulls actually have, right? Do they actually have enough to keep kind of smacking this north? This candle's gonna be a moment of truth for me. So, and just like I expected, guys, from the pre-market we did for the mentorship, pretty good feeling it was going to be a very difficult kind of session, right? Because of the fact that how hard we're pushing. Now we have to determine as traders or analysts, are we going to continue to push and these sweeps are just stop hunts, or did they set up the bull trap, right, that we talked about they were probably going to do, and now they're going to just drop us, right? Because even though, guys, when you begin to want to flip bearish, even though we're getting jumps, those also are stop hunts, right? They're trail hunts. People that are in profit, right, they're going to trail them. And so we don't really know, is this a bull trap that is going to drop, or did we have just a deep push? People are taking profit, right? Stopping out some of the longs or the trail hunts, and then they're going to go back up. Like, it hasn't really given that clear positioning yet. But if you look at it, if we stick to the candle logic we do, we have breach wicks here. Pull and a close below there should sweep it hard, right? How's everybody doing in this? Because it's not an easy one. No, I'm not long right now. I'm more biased to the south, but you got to be patient with your entries. So we're very bullish, right? But when you're up in the middle of nowhere like this, there's just nowhere to know, right, how high you're going to go. So when you're taking your entries south, so a lot of what we do in this room is we scalp, right? Very, very kind of quick plays. It's not long plays. Aiming for, like, even as short as $6 movements to, $15, $20 movements, right? And right now, we're definitely climbing, we're pushing, but there's just no way to know that ceiling, right? And so I was talking about it when we were here that I fear the southern plays more than I fear the northern, right? Yeah, and so we're if you check out the website at nextstepalgo.com, you can register free, guys, there, and you see Neo over here to giving his calls. He even is saying none. He don't even like shorts. He's like, I don't want to go long, but I also don't want to go short. So yeah, so see that deep push, guys? So we came through, we reclaimed these lows. I mean, Neo's on point with that none, right? Because like I said, it's still super unclear. Is this 100 going to act as a top, or are we going to keep going? Now, every time that we've seen this situation, right, we tend to tap it, and then we break down. And so kind of wanted to see if we get that breakdown. But I'm actually cool with, the way that I trade and the way I'm doing my defensive laddering, right? I'm okay with us just oscillating up here. Works for me. That'd be a fantastic day, right? I don't need a full crash. So that's the beauty of scalping, guys. So if you look at this market open, we jumped, we hit Lisma, got our doji, got the close below, we broke down, right? Came through, bounce off Lisma, which is normal, and then we push back up. With such a violent push, if this can't create a high and we get a full break back down, it's going to be pretty bad. Which, and that's what I'm kind of trying to really determine. I don't think we're quite set up yet where we're going to get a full crash of the lower low. I do think that there's a chance it happens. We do have a lot of gap fills that we got to fill down here. But the strength is just still so strong. So there's the high I was waiting to see. So let's see, now that we have that, do we come back down, right? I just wanted to do some ranging. That's all I'm aiming for. Just give me some ranging. Yeah, this is where your FOMO is really hard to control, right? Because you have a FOMO of wanting to short something early, or you have a FOMO of wanting to chase this. If you're not making a decision based on TA, right, it's difficult to do that. So we're getting a pretty good push there, guys. So we have our kind of consolidation, our breakdown. We did break above. We get in the close above. So who knows where this one can go? But what I can tell you for sure is now that we have this established high, we have a little TA to play, right? So as this pushes, it's going to likely at some point pull back to here to test it. When it tests that, if we get another explosion, guys, this thing is just going. Now, if we end up coming back and losing that high again, right, it's going to sweep down pretty hard. It's kind of ended up like a pretty tricky day, like I was saying, though, huh? The guys in the mentor group. My spidey sense is still there. How you doing, Cody? Or Brent? You guys? That's how you were going to talk.
I've been doing some back testing on 15-minute candles, and what I've noticed is if you have a candle that takes out the low and the high of the previous candle, that's indicative. And so we're doing that on the current 15-minute candle. And you know what it would suggest to me, based on limited studying, is that it's going to pull back, and then we're going back up for another high on the next 2 or 3 15-minute candles.
Yeah, possible. We have to me, like I say, you know, and I love that you're doing that kind of backtesting, right? Because all that logic is huge to know as you're approaching certain things, right? And when we do pull back, because the pullbacks are pretty inevitable, they're gonna happen. When we do pull back, right? I just like to see, you know, where do we land when we do pull back, right? Like, where do we land? And that land is so critical to me, because if we land, you know, higher high or higher lows, things like that, typically it's going to make a difference, you know, like how deep it actually goes. And so let me check something. Yeah. And so that's why this low bouncing there is pretty huge, and that's why I'm not surprised that we push hard. I'm surprised that this structure was able to easily break through those lows, right, like that. But the fact that it just did that without even coming to the prior highs or any other technicals, right, shows that there's still a lot of strength, guys. So
I just flipped to the 1 hour, and I'm looking for where the pullback, like you are, like where the pullback could go to, and there's a 1 hour gap down to the EU high, and that could be like a place that's kind of look for an area which is like 28,0675.
yeah.
Something like that.
Hey, Daddy.
Yeah, I was wanting at least to pull back to 28,000 like 6, yeah, and then a lot of times, like I said, once it gets, because of the way this structure is, when we get a full breakdown of these highs, it likely has enough steam to push that. Like, it might bounce a little bit, right? But it usually creates some kind of low here, and then we end up kind of reclaiming the push that came through. So, you know, it seems like the news must have been pretty favorable with the market pushing, right? So, but we're just looking to see, do we got any kind of weakness? You guys see what I mean by the AI is going to just dominate any trader out there. It's just going to, because like as I glance over, you know, the times that Neo is calling trades, all of them have played out. All of them so far. And so he would have taken all of these, right? Whereas I'm sitting here going, no chance, right? You know, I'm sitting on the sideline over here and he's over here winning, right? And so, you know, if I actually I was telling Paul and Alex that when we were talking one day, you know, because obviously I put a lot of the logic into him, but so I don't look at him always as close, right? You know, I build that more to prepare him for automation and for you guys. And but there's times where I don't take something, or I do take something, and then I'll get stuck or whatever, and I'll look over and I'm like, damn, he actually called that good. And so I actually want to do one day, maybe we'll do it like tomorrow or something, like together, right? Where we just say anybody that's willing. I'm gonna kind of interpret to help, but I'm gonna look at his calls and just, set up either limit orders for entries or the confirmation of things. So, but
I had my take profit at 28.22.
yeah,
Of course, didn't make it, and
Paul.
shot to the moon.
Sorry, Paul. Are you still in here, Paul? He might have already went over. Yeah, you're still here. You might want to check with Alex, because see that he just put out another thing that says, we're in the final moments of the 7 a.m. So there's something not going right with the news injection. So we might want to get with Alex and look at it closer, because it's a great thing and he was spot on there, but now he's still looking at it as a upcoming, which is already passed. So I don't know if you can talk to him. Yeah, guys, if you want to come in, it's free to register. So nextstepalgo.com, and you can even watch Neo for free. So if you want to listen to him, you could you can go in there and register and do that for free, guys. So if you want to know where to go, if you see this screen, it's just when you log in, you just go to that one right there where it says Neo AI. You don't have to install nothing, do anything. It's literally just a stream, guys. What I'm wondering, guys, is most of you have seen and experienced this, but it seems like every day they're wanting to push it really hard, and then right around 10:30 to 11, it just reverses, right, for that lower low that I've been talking about. So I'm kind of wondering if we start to see a little bearishness. So if we look here, we got that top, right? These highs are critical, the 103. If we get a close below this, which is below Lisma, which is also a doji, that should sweep hard, right? And so that's what the logic should do. If we don't, again, bulls are just not done, right? So let's watch and see. Again, trading accounts, guys, that you're really tied to today is gonna be a little scary, right? Because there's no telling how high this can go, or when we're gonna just do a full-blown sweep to the south. There's no way to know that. I just want to see a breakdown, man. Come on. Oh, you can hear it? That's fine. I just saw your thing, John. I'm good with it. Yeah, you reminded me. John, remind me on that, because I gotta... There's a filtering for it, but I was playing with it the other day, and I did too many, right? And then I disabled them all but the Google Meet one. So you don't hear it on the Google Meet, but I gotta put it back. I gotta disable the Google Meet one and put it on the actual computer one, but... So we got the dojis. I need to close below here, and that will give us our sweep here, right? That I've been kind of waiting to see if we do. As of right now, we're just in compression, right? So you have to mark the high and the low. Wherever this closes, where we're going. Because we have the breach wick there, probability says it should close more this way, but we got to watch the DOM and see if we're getting the actual pushes or drops, right? Yeah, definitely winding up to be the difficult day that I expected.
Do we got news or anything dropping? I just got here.
Not anymore. I think we're out of that range. At least of what I saw. Let me look. Yeah, I think we're done today.
All right, cool. Thanks, bro.
Yep.
Hello, I'm Neo. Let's capture the move.
Let me, I'm gonna unmute Neo. We'll let him Well, let's see what he does first, because I think Paul and Alex are gonna work on kind of getting that going. So I didn't want to have him unmuted and have him calling out that until we get that corrected. So let's see. Yeah, see, it's still bracing for it. So I don't know what logic. It's amazing that Alex was able to inject that, and I think it's gonna be sick once we fine tune it. But I want to make sure that he's not being overly cautious for something that already played out right. So let's see. I'm just trying to see if this is going to break out of our compression, south or north. See where we bounced here? So candle logic as of now suggests it should be more northern. Right, because of where we bounced. So, but let's see. See the gap fill down here? Those gap fills are pretty staunch. We're gonna hit that. We'll hit this one too. So probably a good probability that we're going to get a deep push, right, and then at some point break down and get a full reclaim, right, which it normally does for news anyways.
Nick, you're still in that ladder?
Yeah, I've just been scalping it here and there, but mild concerns with the pressure we keep getting, but yeah, if you're doing it, just keep your volume low, man, because you gotta have room to wiggle. Because there, as things push, I still think we're gonna get that breakdown, but you're gonna get sweep wicks, right? So see how this is playing out, guys. This is huge. Those that take the training courses, right? When you have compression with a false breakout into absorption, that close below gives some strength. But we have if you look at the 5 minute, there's just nothing bearish going on the 5 minute whatsoever yet. But you can see the 15-second here, right? We're starting to get some bearish play. And see that sweep, like I was saying, those usually are pretty violent. So it's got to be able to break these prior highs right here. But usually that's pretty violent, so let's see. Gotta see how it respects those highs. Anything that bounces above 103, right, can jump again. So we're getting the pull. Now that we have our close, right, expansion, if this thing pulls into there, it's going to come down pretty harsh. But let's see. How this treats this is going to be big, right? Do we sweep like this, rear back and close, or do we just blow through that? Now, a lot of times it's going to chase this, right? The 5 minute Lisma. We have gap fills way down here. We have this one for sure, 067, right? So we're kind of losing the peaks, right? Which I would expect it to have it hold like 102. But I also, if it wants to be very bearish, I expect it to pull pretty deep into here and then come back up and reject off of 102. And then that would be our kind of signal that we're going down, right? Pretty harsh. So let's see. Looking like that's what it wants to do. Just watching the DOM. Pressure's still south. Little jump. You see that minor jump north. Now I'm expecting a little DOM jumps from this. Anything that approaches into there, right, it's going to jump, jump, jump. Now how high that jumps, I'm okay if it jumps even all the way to here, right, 112, then this low. But again, just like we did with the other structure, if we have this structure, we want to stay below these lows, right, to show the strength. Let's see if we just get the full sweep. We also have the ORB at 83, so just kind of be careful of that, right? We could see a sweep and then a bounce off the ORB. If we lose that ORB, like we're full effect to the gap fill, which I suspect is probably more likely to happen, but just the way this is playing. Let me unmute him.
0.15 high and currently testing the 28,093.75 area as it navigates the immediate post. News liquidity shift, sentiment, bearish pressure, confidence, 3 out of 10. Reason, price has broken back below the 1-minute Lisma of 28,130.64, and the red high Kinashi candles reflect a significant cooling of the bullish momentum seen just moments ago. Conk. Earns. The price remains in a highly erratic state where technical levels are being swept, and the 5 minutes Lisma of 28,046.78 is a significant support level that will likely influence the next leg of this move. Long. Entry option. None. Short entry option. None. Summary. The news release has triggered a sharp, volatile correction, and the market is currently in a price discovery phase. I am remaining flat, as the structural integrity of the recent breakout is currently being tested by intense, news-driven volatility, and I need to see a stable base form before looking for a reliable setup.
He choosing to remain on the sidelines, which is not bad. Again, guys, because it's we watched a bearish structure break down and then find support perfectly at the halfway liquidity mark, right? And then reclaim it. So bears aren't. That doesn't show a lot of weakness in the bulls, right? And so now you got to think about it. Are we coming back because we're gonna flip the trend, or is it just a healthy pullback that they're allowing, right? We don't know yet until we see some full breakdown. What I'm heavily watching here, guys, and I was kind of circling while he was talking. If you look at the progression all the way up, we have nothing that meets a bearish progression. This is the first one that might, right? See how we have the doji? And so if we get the close on this body below there, right, that's our first bearish projection, and we're coming to there. And so it's kind of what I was watching. We got 2 minutes to decide what it wants to do. Man, good job on that, Duff. Just saw that. Why are you snoozing? Let me refresh him.
Hello, I'm Neo. Let's capture the move.
So Alex told me that Chrome seems to be the one that's fighting the most on why he'll time out. It's a web browser thing. If you're on the web browser, especially apparently if you're on Chrome, which is what all I use, you just refresh him, right, and then he's fine. But let's see what we're doing. So again, a bounce here is normal. I'm not opposed to that. I would want to see the bounce stay below here. Preferably below here, right? Because if we stay, now we're trying to decide, are we going to resist off of the prior low, or are we going to reject on the prior highs, right? Which is pretty close, because you can see this prior high is right where that prior low is, so 112. So if we break back through 112 again, guys, that they're just setting bear traps, right? They keep setting these deep pullbacks, and then they're exploding through them. And so you got to be really careful, but this is a moment of truth right here where it wants to break down. Because see how we came up? I expected a pullback to there. How this acts is huge, because if we just explode through this, we might not get that deep pull that we were expecting as soon as we thought, right? Because it shouldn't do that if it's going to pull all the way down there. And so now we know we got about 15 minutes until we hit 11 o'clock, which is typically when we do our deep directional pulls, right? And so we can kind of hang on through there. See the rejection right off that? That's critical. So a lot of times this structure will create a lower low. Right, that's kind of what I was watching through my ladders. So I just hit a couple more of my TPs, so that's good. This structure's got to create a lower low here, guys. So if we bounce heavily from here, still not, convinced, but because the way that this played out and where that failed almost perfectly, there you go. See, that's the lower low I wanted. So a lot of times, if we close within that lower low, it's going to give you a full expansion down to this
The
area
market
here, or at
is
least
currently
this area
struggling
here.
to regain upward momentum, pinned in a volatile consolidation between the 1-minute Lisma at 28,132.40 and the 5 minutes Lisma at 28,050.80 following. The initial news reaction, sentiment, bearish pressure, confidence, 2 out of 10. Reason, price remains below the 1-minute Lisma and the 15 seconds Lisma, indicating that the recent news driven pullback has compromised the immediate bullish trend despite the resilience shown at the 5 minutes macro level, conc. Earns. The ongoing volatility from the ISM and JOLTS data continues to produce erratic swings, and the 1 minute EMA 200 at 28,025.78 remains a critical structural support that could invite further volatility if tested. Long entry option, none. Short entry option, none.
Just gonna put
Summary.
speech.
We are currently in a high friction environment where the market is attempting to process the news data. Technical levels are being subjected to significant whipsaw risk. And I am maintaining a flat position to avoid the high probability of being caught on the wrong side of a liquidity sweep. I will wait for a clear, sustained breakout beyond the current consolidation zone before I consider re-entering the market.
Man, he's showing a crazy display of patience today, huh? Guys, we got 10:46. It's usually when I stop and just kind of go for questions. Those that are on TikTok, if you guys have questions, please do so now. If you guys wanted to check out what we're doing in here, right, it's go to nextstepalgo.com. All the stuff's in my bio. When you get to the website, what you're seeing here on Neo, and you're reading and hearing and all that, is our AI that we have developed and are continuing to improve on it. And he is absolutely doing phenomenal. So if you want to watch it, guys, you don't have to install anything, do anything, nothing. There's no fee. You can do it 100% free. Just go to on the side panel here where it says Neo AI session, and then you could watch this too. So if anybody who's intrigued, now Neo is set to kind of scalping more so than long term, so he's more in and out of his trades, right, as far as what he gives on guidance. So there's those sweeps that I keep saying I'm more fearful of. You see what I mean? How that just, man, I don't know. That's crazy. But yeah, guys, like I said, as far as trades go, for those that are in the development programs and mentor program, right, you guys kind of have an idea of how to play these. We're definitely getting some deep sweeps, which is expected from the rejection and the loss of what we just did. We are not quite full bearish on the macro yet. We need to get a close below there, and then I would suspect that's going to be an early call for some pull. So we did get a deep sweep again, but it absorbed north. Any kind of close above that should push us more northern, right? So I want to begin on the micro level. If I'm going to continue to push short, right, I want to continue to see bullish things fail, right? Not the other way around. So we're getting a pretty good little push here. Let's see where that goes. But guys, just to keep us on time, I've been trying to do better at that, even though we end up going over. We have the development session that does come in here soon. If you guys go to the website, you can see all the information on it. We do start that at 11 a.m. So at that point, I get off of all the socials. We go in, we do some more trading till about 1. Do a little more deeper TA, things like that. But Put this
Hello,
back on.
I'm
Old
Neo. Let's
Neo.
capture the move.
But yeah, if you guys want to check it out, just again, go to the website at nextstepalgo.com. Every morning, Monday through Friday, I'm live on TikTok. So if you guys are comfortable on that platform, you can definitely watch there. I'll be here every single weekday, right? That the market's open. So any information you want to know, right? Just check it out in the bio.
Is struggling to find follow through as it rotates between the 1 minute LS. MA at 28,132.29 and the 5 minutes LISMA at 28,052.88, reflecting a lack of conviction immediately following the economic reports. Sentiment, bullish pressure. Confidence, 3 out of 10. Reason, price is trading above the 5 minutes LISMA and the 1 minute EMA 200 of 28,029.58, indicating that the broader bullish structure remains supported despite the volatile consolidation concerns. The proximity to the 1 minute LISMA overhead resistance at 28,132.29, coupled with the ongoing price discovery volatility from the recent data releases, creates an environment where technical signals are frequently trapped in a whipsaw loop. Long entry option, none. Short entry option, none. Summary. The technical structure is still finding its balance post-news. I am remaining flat as the current price action is noisy and lacks the clean, room-filled expansion required for a high probability setup. I will wait for a definitive breakout above the 1 minute LISMA or a stable support base formation before seeking further market participation.
I love, though, the patience that he's displaying for, because remember, guys, the type of trader he's programmed to be is not really like DCA, ladder, defensive. Like, we haven't really added that. Eventually we will, but he's a singular entry. If you're singular entry right now, he's not wrong, right? There's a lot of stuff that suggests we should really go up, but we need a deeper pullback to do it, to stay on the macro bias, directionally. But there's a lot of stuff starting to show some weakness, right? And so for you to do singular entries right now, it's kind of dangerous, right? Unless you're doing something. Yeah, it's cool. Appreciate it, John. But guys, 10:52. I always drop off a little bit early for the community, so that way we can ask some questions on the off the socials. But again, if you guys want to check it out, again, nextstepalgo.com. So I'm going to stop the recording.